Hello, today we're going to be talking about Carter G. Woodson and his philosophy and how his philosophy has impacted our education today. And then we're going to have a discussion and go in depth of our responsibilities as future educators and how we can continue Carter G. Woodson's legacy. So just a little background for Carter G. Woodson. In 1915, he created the Association of the Study of African American Life. He is the second African American man to get a doctorate from Harvard. He then became a dean of Howard University. In 1950, he wrote The Miseducation of the Negro, and this is now required reading for most universities. His major philosophy is that for African American students especially, that you need to be taught your history in order to be motivated for your future. So Carter G. Woodson firmly believed that African American students were not being educated about their history, and he saw that this was a major problem because how can one be motivated for their future and know where they're going in the future if they do not know their history, or if their history is not a truthful retelling of their past. So the miseducation of the Negro. So we have this misconception even today. It's ingrained in our minds that African American history started with slavery and ended with Martin Luther King Jr. And where that is so detrimental to our young African American students, because if African American students, their first, they feel like their origin story is slavery, is like they began as slaves and then now we have to climb up, and that's totally not the case. And it's just a one-sided representation of our history, and that's where Carter G. Woodson really felt that this is that African American students are being crippled with this miseducation. So he made it his mission to properly educate students, especially African American students, of their history. So our responsibilities as an educator, one is to celebrate our history, is to continuing to take pride in our in our history and how we have overcome and celebrate it and share with our young students coming up. Our next responsibility is to have an open dialogue, to continue the conversation, not just with your students, but with your peers, with your fellow teachers, and let your students, and create an environment for your students where they can ask tough, in-depth questions about their history, because we need to remember that this is their history and we're just in service to our students and creating a space for them to learn and grow and develop. And just having an open dialogue with your peers, and don't be afraid to ask questions if you don't know, if you feel uncomfortable, because again, the worst thing to do is not to talk about it. Also, to diversify our resources, make sure we have books of different cultures, and make sure that there's representation in your classroom. So students of other cultures and races and creed and religions. So just so that your students feel that they are not alone and that there's other people out there like them that is succeeding and doing great things. And further education. This is a call to teachers to further educate yourself. To further educate yourself, continue to read books and find materials that can help boost you and make you a little bit more knowledgeable of the different cultures of your students. And here are our resources.